The envelope trembled in her dark fingers. Silence. The lawyer's office reeked of old money and older secrets. Outside, Seoul's skyline glittered, indifferent, cold. Adiz couldn't breathe. Her name was typed across the document. Her name. A Nigerian maid who scrubbed floors. Who endured silence. Who survived. 23 billion won. The man she'd served for 3 years. The man who never once looked at her, had left her everything. His son stood across the room. Park Jae-sun. The mafia heir. His jaw tightened. His empire had just crumbled into her hands. And his obsession had just begun. Sometimes God writes the most dangerous love stories in the margins of impossible lives. This is one of them. Please like, share and subscribe. 3 years earlier. Adiz Okonkwo stepped off the bus in Gangnam-gu with exactly 47,000 won in her pocket and a prayer wedged between her teeth. The agency woman had warned her. The Park family is particular. Keep your head down. Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't look at the sun. She hadn't explained why. The estate rose before her like a threat dressed in architecture. White stone. Black iron gates. Security cameras that moved like predators tracking prey. She was 24 years old. She had graduated top of her class in Lagos. English literature with honors. Her mother had sold her gold earrings to buy the plane ticket. Her father had wept at the airport, pressing a worn Bible into her hands. God goes before you, he'd whispered. Now she stood before a house that could swallow her whole. The gate opened. No one greeted her. The interior stole her breath. Marble floors stretched endlessly, reflecting crystal chandeliers that cost more than her village's annual income. Art pieces lined the walls. Modern, angular, cold. The air smelled of sandalwood and something else. Something metallic. She would later learn that smell was fear. A woman appeared. Late 50s. Severe bun. Uniforms starched to military precision. You're late. Adiz checked her phone. The bus. Excuses are not currency here. The woman's Korean was crisp. I am head housekeeper Moon. You will address me as such. Your quarters are in the East Wing. Your duties begin at 5 a.m. You will not enter the West Wing. You will not enter the chairman's study. You will not speak to the young master unless absolutely necessary. Adiz's spine straightened. I understand. Moon's eyes, sharp, assessing, traveled down her body. Lingered. They usually don't last more than 3 months. The ones like you. Like me. Foreign. Beautiful. Moon's lip curled. Hopeful. She turned and walked away. Adiz followed. Her room was small but clean. A single bed. A window overlooking the garden. A dresser that smelled of mothballs and loneliness. She sat on the mattress and opened her father's Bible. Psalm 23. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. She didn't know yet that the shadow had a name. Park Jae-sun. Chairman Park Sung-ho was dying. Not quickly. Not cleanly. But dying nonetheless. Adiz learned this on her 7th day, when she accidentally walked into the wrong room and found him collapsed on the floor, blood trickling from his nose, his eyes rolling white. She should have screamed for help. Instead she moved. Her mother was a nurse. Her grandmother was a healer. Instinct overrode protocol. She turned him onto his side. Checked his airway. Applied pressure to the bleeding. Her hands were steady, steadier than her racing heart. By the time the private medical team arrived, his color had returned. By the time they stabilized him, she was already back in the kitchen, scrubbing dishes like nothing had happened. She didn't know he'd been watching. Through the security feed. Through half-conscious eyes. She didn't know that in that moment, something shifted in the old man's dying heart. 3 days later, Moon summoned her. The chairman wishes to see you. Adiz's blood cooled. Have I done something wrong? I don't know. Moon's voice held an unfamiliar note. Confusion. Perhaps even fear. He's never asked to see a maid before. The walk to the chairman's private quarters took 4 minutes. Felt like 40 years. Chairman Park sat in a leather chair by the window, soul sprawling beneath him like a kingdom he'd built with blood and brilliance. He was 73. His face was carved granite. His eyes held the weight of 1,000 decisions most men couldn't stomach. He was also, Adiz noticed, looking at her with something she couldn't name. Sit. She sat. Silence stretched. 1 minute. 2. They tell me you saved my life. I simply helped until the doctors arrived. Modesty. He almost smiled. Or survival instinct. Which is it? Perhaps both. Now he did smile. Barely. A ghost of expression. Where did you learn medicine? My mother. She's a nurse in Lagos. Lagos. He tested the word. Nigeria. Yes, sir. Why are you here? In my house. Cleaning my floors. The question was direct. Demanding. He expected truth. He gave it. Because my family needs money. Because opportunities at home are limited. Because I'm willing to do what others won't. And what are others unwilling to do? Humble themselves. Silence again. But this time it was different. Warmer. What is your name? Adiz Okonkwo. What does it mean? King's daughter. His eyes flickered. Something ancient passed through them. A king's daughter scrubbing floors. He leaned back. There's a sermon in that somewhere. She didn't respond. He studied her for a long moment. Then, you will attend to me personally from now on. Meals. Medication. Whatever I require. Moon will reassign your other duties. Sir, I don't think. I'm not asking. His voice hardened. I'm telling. He recognized power. She recognized men who wielded it. This was not cruelty, not yet. This was something else. Loneliness. Dressed in command. Yes, sir. Good. He turned back to the window. You're dismissed. She rose. Walked to the door. Adiz. She turned. My son will not be pleased about this arrangement. Stay away from him. The warning landed like a stone in still water. She didn't ask why. He didn't need to. Park Jae-sun entered the estate at 2:47 a.m. Adiz knew this because she was awake. Couldn't sleep, her mind still processing the chairman's strange summons. She'd come to the kitchen for water. She found him instead. He stood by the refrigerator, silhouetted by the appliance light, a bottle of soju in his hand. Blood on his knuckles. His white shirt torn at the collar. He didn't look like a businessman. He looked like war. 28 years old. Sharp jaw. Hair pushed back carelessly. His eyes, when they landed on her, were black holes rimmed with exhaustion and something far more dangerous. Recognition. He knows I'm new. Neither spoke. She should leave. Turn around. Pretend this moment never happened. Instead she moved to the sink. Wet a clean cloth. Walked toward him. Your hand is bleeding. His eyes narrowed. Who are you? Adiz. The new maid. The African. She didn't flinch. Nigerian. Something shifted in his expression. Curiosity. Irritation. She couldn't tell. And you're offering to clean my wounds? How domestic. Would you prefer infection? His jaw tightened. Then, impossibly, he extended his hand. She cleaned the wounds with clinical efficiency. Wrapped them with gauze from the first aid kit mounted by the door. Her fingers were professional. Detached. But his eyes never left her face. When she finished, she stepped back. You should see a doctor. Some of these cuts are deep. I've had worse. I'm sure you have. Something flickered. Surprise. He wasn't used to being spoken to like an equal. Like a human. You're brave, he said quietly. Or stupid. Perhaps both. His mouth curved. The barest hint of a smile. My father warned you about me. Yes. And you're still here. Alone. At 3 a.m. I was thirsty. So am I. The words hung between them. Not a threat. Not quite. Something worse. A promise. She stepped toward the door. Good night, young master. Jae-sun. She turned. You'll call me Jae-sun. Not young master. Not sir. Jae-sun. Protocol screamed at her to refuse. Her mouth said, Good night, Jae-sun. She left before she could see his reaction. But she felt his gaze on her spine all the way down the hallway. She didn't sleep that night. Over the next 3 months, Adiz became Chairman Park's shadow. She served his meals. Organized his medications. Read to him when his eyes grew tired, Korean literature that she was learning, stumbling over syllables while he listened with infinite patience. She learned his routines. 5 a.m., wake. Tai Chi in the garden. 7 a.m., breakfast. 2 eggs. Black coffee. Financial reports. 9 a.m. Phone calls with lawyers, accountants, men whose names carried weight. Noon. Medication. Rest. 2 p.m. Meetings. She stood outside the door waiting. 6 p.m. Dinner. Quiet. Almost meditative. 9 p.m. Reading. Prayer. Yes. Prayer. That surprised her most. The chairman, this man who had built an empire on violence and power, prayed. Every night. Quietly. In a small chapel on the third floor that no one else used. She'd discovered it by accident. Followed the sound of murmured words. Found him kneeling. Broken. He'd seen her watching. But he hadn't stopped. Later he'd explained. I've done things, Adiz. Things that keep men awake for lifetimes. The only reason I sleep is because I believe someone is listening. Someone who can forgive what I cannot forgive myself. He understood. Her own faith was different. Louder, more communal, rooted in Nigerian Pentecostalism. But faith was faith. Desperate people talking to a desperate God. They began praying together. Not every night. But often. And slowly the walls came down. Jason watched. Boys. He never joined meals. Never entered his father's quarters. But his eyes followed Adiz through hallways, across courtyards, during the rare moments their paths crossed. She felt it like heat on her skin. His silence was worse than words. His absence was louder than presence. The other staff noticed. Whispers began. The young master is interested in the African. She's overstepping. Serving the chairman directly. She won't last. They never do. Adiz ignored them. He had work to do. Money to send home. A dying man who somehow needed her. But late at night when the house fell silent, she'd catch herself thinking about black eyes and bloody knuckles. And she'd pray harder. 6 months into her employment, Adiz learned the truth about the Park family. Not from gossip. From blood. It happened on a Tuesday. She was carrying the chairman's lunch tray to his study when she heard raised voices. Jason's sharp, cold. And another man's, desperate, pleading. He should have turned around. Instead she froze. The study door was cracked. Just enough to see. Jason stood over a kneeling man. Middle-aged. Expensive suit. Wet with fear. You stole from my father, Jason said. His voice was terrifyingly calm. 12 billion won over 18 months. Did you think we wouldn't notice? I was going to pay it back. With what? Your life isn't worth 12 billion won. The man sobbed. Please. I have children. Something crossed Jason's face. Not mercy. Not cruelty. Exhaustion. Then you should have thought about them before you betrayed us. He nodded to a man standing in the shadows. Massive. Scarred. Holding something Adiz couldn't see. She turned and walked away. That night the chairman noticed her silence. You saw something today. She didn't answer. Adiz. Yes. And? She met his eyes. I serve you. Not him. What he does is not my business. But it disturbs you. Many things disturb me. I still wake up. I still work. I still pray. He studied her. Then slowly. You're stronger than I thought. Or more desperate. He laughed. The first real laugh she'd heard from him. Perhaps both. But she couldn't unsee. She couldn't unfeel the weight of knowing. The Park family wasn't simply wealthy. They were powerful in ways that existed beyond law, beyond morality. They ran the largest organized crime syndicate in South Korea. Jason wasn't a businessman. He was a king in training. And she was cleaning his castle. 9 months. The chairman's health declined. His steps slowed. His appetite shrank. His prayers grew longer, more desperate. Adiz stayed. She could have left. Found another position. Escaped this house of shadows and secrets. But something held her. Loyalty? Foolishness? The old man's quiet conversations about grace and redemption? Someone worse. Jason's presence or something worse. And become a constant. Where before he'd been a ghost, now he was everywhere. Morning breakfast in the kitchen when she arrived. Evening walks in the garden when she tended the chairman. Late night appearances in hallways that should have been empty. He never spoke to her directly. Not since that first night. But he watched. And watching in this house was its own language. One evening the chairman collapsed again. Worse this time. Much worse. The doctors came. Stabilized him. But their faces told a story they wouldn't speak aloud. Months, they said with their silence. Maybe weeks. Adiz sat outside his room, hands clasped, lips moving in prayer. She didn't hear Jason approach. Didn't notice until he sat beside her. Close enough that his shoulder nearly touched hers. You're praying for him. Not a question. Yes. To your God. To the only one I know. And you think he's listening? She turned to face him. Really looked at him for the first time in months. Exhaustion carved his features. Fear, actual fear, flickered beneath the surface. This wasn't a predator. This was a son watching his father die. I don't think, she said quietly. I believe. There's a difference. What's the difference? Thinking can be argued with. Belief can't. He was silent for a long moment. Then, will you pray for me too? The question undid her. I already do. His breath caught. Just slightly. Enough. He stood. Walked away. But something had cracked. In him. In her. 3 weeks later. The chairman's 64th consecutive day without leaving his bed. Jason had moved into the main house. Running operations remotely. Canceling overseas trips. The staff whispered about succession plans, power struggles, rival syndicates circling like sharks. Adiz heard none of it. She heard only the old man's weakening breaths. The monitor's steady beeping. The turning pages of the Psalms she read aloud each night. One evening, Jason entered. She tensed. Started to rise. Started to leave. Stay. One word. But it carried weight. She stayed. He sat on the opposite side of his father's bed. Stared at the fragile form that had once commanded empires. He looks small, Jason murmured. He used to fill every room. Now he fills this one. Adiz's voice was soft. Just differently. Jason looked at her. Really looked. You see something I don't. I see a man making peace with his life. That takes more strength than building it. His jaw tightened. You speak like you've watched people die before. My grandmother. My uncle. 3 cousins. She paused. Nigeria is not easy. Neither is Korea. No. But the dying is different there. Louder. More communal. Here it's silent. Yes. He nodded. Turned back to his father. Minutes passed. Then his hand moved. Slowly. Deliberately. It landed on hers. Just for a moment. Warm. Calloused. Trembling. Then it withdrew. Thank you, he said quietly. For staying with him. For being what he needed. She couldn't speak. He left. But her hand burned for hours. 2 weeks later. The chairman woke with unusual clarity. His eyes, foggy for days, were sharp. Present. Adiz. She leaned close. I'm here. I need to tell you something. Before it's too late. Her heart raced. You should rest. I've rested enough. I've been resting for 73 years. He coughed. Winced. Continued. I've done terrible things. You know this. I don't. You know. His voice hardened. You've seen. You've heard. You're not a fool. She fell silent. I built this empire on blood. Other people's blood. Sometimes my own. I told myself it was for my family. For my son. For legacy. He paused. But legacy is just a story we tell ourselves to justify the darkness. Sir. Listen. His hand found hers. Fragile. Urgent. I've been trying to make amends. For years. Quietly. Charities. Hospitals. Service. Not enough. Never enough. But I'm tired, Adiz. I'm tired of carrying this. Tears welled in his eyes. In hers too. God forgives, she whispered. That's what I believe. That's what I've always believed. Even men like me? Especially men like you. That's the whole point. He closed his eyes. Open them again. I'm changing my will. Everything stopped. Sir. Jason will inherit the business. He's ready. More ready than he knows. But there's money. Clean money. Outside the syndicate. Legitimate investments. Properties. Holdings. Her confusion deepened. I don't understand. You've shown me more kindness in 1 year than I've received in 50. You've prayed with me. Read to me. treated me like a human being, not a monster. You're not. I was. His grip tightened. But you helped me remember that I could be something else. Before the end. Sir, please. I'm leaving it to you, Adiz. 23 billion won. The charitable foundations. The scholarship programs. All of it. The room spun. You can't. I can. And I will. My lawyers have the documents. Your son will rage. Will question. Will possibly try to destroy you. His eyes burned. But he won't succeed. I've made sure of it. And maybe in fighting for what I've given you, he'll become the man I always hoped he'd be. This is madness. No. Chairman Park smiled. The first peaceful smile she'd ever seen on his face. This is faith. He fell asleep. She sat with him until dawn. Neither spoke again. He died 4 days later. Quietly. In his sleep. The monitors flatlined at 3:33 a.m. Adiz was there. She held his hand as the warmth faded. Prayed over his body as the medical team confirmed what she already knew. Stood vigil while the household woke to chaos. She didn't weep. Not yet. There would be time for tears. But first there was duty. The funeral was massive. Politicians. Business leaders. Men in dark suits with darker histories. The service was Buddhist. Tradition demanded it. But Adiz saw something else in Jae-sun's face as he stood before his father's portrait. Not peace. Not closure. Rage. Pure and terrible. And when his eyes found hers across the crowded temple, she understood. He knew. About the will. About the inheritance. About the 23 billion won that should have been his. He knew. And he was coming for her. 1 week after the funeral. The lawyer's office. Glass and steel and corporate coldness. Adiz had been summoned along with the rest of the household. The head of security. A few senior staff. And Jae-sun. He sat across from her. Suit black. Eyes blacker. His entire body radiated controlled fury. The lawyer read. Holdings. Properties. Business arrangements. The expected bequests to expected people. Then, to Adiz Okonkwo, in recognition of her devoted service and the kindness she showed during my final days, I leave the entirety of my personal foundation holdings, including all charitable organizations, scholarship funds, and associated liquid assets, totaling approximately 23 billion Korean won. Silence. Absolute. Crushing. Moon's face went white. The security head's jaw dropped. King didn't move. Didn't breathe. Just stared at the lawyer like the man had spoken in tongues. This is a mistake. His voice was ice. I'm afraid not, Mr. Park. Your father updated his will 3 months ago, witnessed by 2 independent parties and notarized. Show me the documents. The lawyer slid them across the table. Jae-sun read. His father's signature. His father's handwriting on an attached letter. His father's unmistakable seal. All of it. He looked up. At her. You. 1 word. Loaded with everything. Adiz's hands trembled beneath the table, but her voice held. I didn't ask for this. No. You just manipulated a dying man. I did no such thing. Then explain. He leaned forward. Predatory. Explain why a maid, a foreign maid, inherits 23 billion won from a man she's known for 1 year. Because he chose to give it. Because he believed in something I represented. Because you seduced him. The accusation hung like poison. I have never, her voice cracked. Steadied. I have never behaved inappropriately with your father. Ever. I served him. I cared for him. I prayed with him. That's all. That's all. He laughed. Mirthless. That's all. And for that you receive more money than most people see in 10 lifetimes. It's not about the money. Everything is about the money. He slammed his palm on the table. The lawyer flinched. Moon pressed against her chair. Adiz didn't move. Your father wanted his legacy to mean something beyond what he built in darkness. He told me this. He wanted redemption. He wanted his wealth to do good. And he chose you to deliver it. He chose the person who saw him as human. Not as Chairman Park. Not as the syndicate head. As a man. A dying man who needed grace. Jae-sun's eyes burned. But beneath the rage she saw something else. Pain. His father had never looked at him the way he'd looked at her. Had never shared quiet prayers or peaceful conversations. The money was almost secondary. This was about being chosen. And Jason hadn't been. I'll contest this. The lawyer cleared his throat. You can try, Mr. Park. But your father anticipated that. The documents are airtight. Multiple witnesses. Recorded testimonies. Medical evaluations confirming his mental clarity at the time of signing. He was dying. But competent. The courts will uphold it. Jason stood. His chair screeched against marble. He looked at Adiz one final time. This isn't over. He walked out. The room exhaled. Adiz sat frozen, the envelope of documents heavy in her hands. 23 billion won. And an enemy who would stop at nothing to take it back. She didn't sleep for 3 days. The money existed in documents and numbers, but it felt like a physical thing. Pressing on her chest, stealing her breath, making every familiar space feel suddenly dangerous. Moon wouldn't speak to her. The other staff members avoided eye contact. Security guards who had once nodded politely now watched her with suspicion. She was a threat now. An intruder. An outsider who had somehow claimed what wasn't hers. On the 4th day she moved out of the estate. Not because she wanted to. The chairman had arranged for her continued residence. But because staying felt like suffocating. She found a small apartment in Hongdae. Anonymous. Quiet. 12 floors above a city that didn't know her name. The lawyer helped her set up basic accounts. Access to the foundations. Contact information for the charitable organizations. But the money itself? She didn't touch it. Couldn't. Her mother called on the 5th day. Mama. Ada. I've been trying to reach you for days. What is happening? The agency said you left your position. I'm fine, Mama. Everything is fine. You don't sound fine. You sound like you're drowning. Tears fell. Finally. Something happened. Something I don't understand. Something I'm not sure I can carry. Silence on the other end. Then softly. Tell me. So she did. Everything. The Herman. The prayers. The death. The will. Her mother listened without interrupting. When Adiz finished there was only quiet. Then, do you remember what your grandmother used to say? About unexpected blessings. They're never what they seem. Exactly. This money, it came from somewhere. From someone. From a life you didn't live. And now it's asking you to steward something you didn't earn. But why me? Why not his son? Why not someone who actually deserves? Deserving is not how God works, Ada. You know this. Grace is never earned. It's given. But what do I do with it? What you've always done. What he asked you to do. Use it well. Use it for good. And trust that you weren't chosen by accident. He found her on day 12. She was leaving a coffee shop in Hongdae when she felt it. That familiar heat on her spine. She turned. A black car idled across the street. Tinted windows. No plates she could read. It didn't follow when she walked away. But it was there again the next day. Outside her apartment building. And the day after that. At the grocery store. And the day after that. Always watching. Never approaching. On day 16 her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. How long are you going to hide? His voice. Controlled. But something else beneath it. She closed her eyes. I'm not hiding. You left without a word. Changed your address. Blocked communications from the household. I needed space. From what? From everyone looking at me like a thief. Silence. Then, meet me. No. It wasn't a request. And it wasn't an acceptance. She steadied her breath. I have lawyers now, Jason. Your father made sure of it. Whatever you're planning. I'm not planning anything. Then why are you following me? Pause. Because I can't stop. The confession landed like a blow. That's not my problem. No, it's mine. But you're at the center of it, which makes you unavoidable. What do you want? To understand. His voice cracked. Just slightly. He was my father for 28 years. You knew him for 1. And in that 1 year you got something I never had. What? His trust. His peace. His affection. The pain in his voice was raw. For a moment she forgot he was dangerous. For a moment she saw only the sun. Meet me, he said again. Softer. Please. He should say no. She said, where? They met at a temple. Neutral ground. Public enough for safety. Private enough for truth. He was already there when she arrived, sitting on a bench overlooking the city, his suit replaced by simple black clothes. He looked younger like this. Smaller. Human. She sat beside him. Left distance between them. Neither spoke for several minutes. Finally. He never told me he was dying. She turned to look at him. What? My father. He never told me how bad it was. I knew he was sick, but he made it seem manageable. Under control. I found out about the real prognosis after he died. From his doctors. Jae-sun. He talked to you. Every day. Read with you. Prayed with you. His voice thinned. And he couldn't tell me he was dying. That wasn't about you. That was about him. About his guilt. His guilt. For what he made you become. Adise chose her words carefully. He told me once that his greatest regret wasn't the blood or the power. It was passing it to you. Making you carry what he'd built. Jae-sun's jaw tightened. He chose this path. And he wished he hadn't. He wished he'd given you something else. A different life. A clean inheritance. There is no clean inheritance. I know. She paused. That's why he gave me what he did. The foundations. The scholarships. The charity work. He wanted to leave something behind that wasn't stained. And he couldn't trust it to the family business. It had to be separate. Protected. So he chose you. He chose someone who had nothing to lose and everything to prove. Jae-sun was silent for a long moment. Then, I don't know how to stop hating you for this. Then don't. Hate me if you need to. It won't change what he decided. But I want to understand you. He turned to face her fully. I want to know who you are. What you said to him. What you did to make him see you the way he never saw me. I didn't do anything except be present. Be honest. Treat him like a person instead of a position. That simple. That complicated. He laughed. Bitter. Brief. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? A gold digger. A manipulator. Someone I could dismiss. And instead you're sitting here telling me about my father's regrets like you knew him better than I did. His voice hardened. And the worst part is, I think you're right. She didn't respond. There was nothing to say. He called again 3 days later. I want to propose something. She hesitated. I'm listening. The foundation work. The charities. They're complicated. International. You don't have the experience to manage them alone. Your father left instructions. There's a board. The board is bureaucratic. So, they'll waste half the money in administrative costs before they help anyone. She couldn't argue. She'd already noticed the bloat. What are you proposing? Partnership. He let the word settle. I have resources. Connections. Infrastructure. You have the authority and the mandate. Together we could actually make his vision work. Why would you help me? Because maybe that's how I find peace with this. By being part of what he wanted even if he didn't choose me to lead it. The vulnerability in his voice was unexpected. Disarming. Dangerous. This isn't about the money. I have money. More than I'll ever need. The syndicate isn't about wealth. It's about power. The foundations are something else. Something he kept separate from me my whole life. Now you're offering me a door. I'm not offering anything. Then let me offer. 1 year. We work together. Restructure the organizations. Maximize impact. After that, if you want me gone, I'll step back. She should refuse. Everything in her screamed caution. But his father's voice echoed in her memory. Maybe in fighting for what I've given you, he'll become the man I always hoped he'd be. 1 year, she said slowly. But I maintain final authority. Your father gave me this responsibility. I won't share it. Understood. And if I ever feel threatened, I would never. Let me finish. If I ever feel threatened, I walk away. Immediately. With everything. No appeals. No negotiations. Silence. Then, agreed. They started slowly. Meetings. Reports. Site visits to schools and hospitals funded by the chairman's generosity. Adise had expected resistance from the organizations. suspicion toward the foreign woman who'd suddenly inherited their oversight. Instead, she found gratitude. Many of the foundation directors had known the chairman personally, had watched him transform from ruthless businessman to quiet philanthropist in his final years. They welcomed her as a continuation of that journey. The work was overwhelming, inspiring, exhausting, and Jason was helpful. More than helpful. He cut through bureaucracy with surgical precision, negotiated vendor contracts that saved millions, used his network to open doors that had been firmly closed. She watched him in meetings. The same intensity she'd seen directed at enemies now focused on administrative inefficiency. The same command presence that terrified subordinates now charming donors. He was good at this. Disturbingly good. Week 4. They visited a school in Busan together. A scholarship program for underprivileged students. 300 children whose education was funded by the foundation. Jae-sun walked through the halls in silence. Watching. Listening. The children stared at him with wide eyes. This tall, beautiful man in expensive clothes who looked like he'd stepped out of a drama. One girl approached. 6 years old. Missing 2 front teeth. Absolutely fearless. Are you a prince? Jae-sun froze. Adiz bit her lip to keep from laughing. No, he said carefully. I'm not. You look like one. From the storybooks. Princes are kind. I'm not always kind. That's okay. The girl reached up and patted his hand. You can learn. She skipped away. Jae-sun stood motionless. Later in the car he said, that child has more courage than most of my executives. Adiz smiled. Children haven't learned to be afraid yet. Maybe that's why he did this. My father. Jae-sun stared out the window. Maybe he wanted to protect something innocent. Something he hadn't touched. Maybe. Is that why you stayed? When you could have left. She considered the question. I stayed because he needed me. So, he was alone in a way I understood. How? I was alone too. Different country. Different language. No family. No friends. We were both strangers in our own lives. He turned to look at her. And now? Are you still alone? Her breath caught. Less than I was. He held her gaze. Something shifted between them. Something neither named. Week 6. Adiz received a visitor. The former head housekeeper stood in her apartment doorway, older than she remembered, face lined with exhaustion. May I come in? Against her better judgment, Adiz stepped aside. Moon entered. Looked around at the modest space. Said nothing about the contrast to the estate. I came to warn you. Adiz's pulse quickened. About what? The young master. Moon sat uninvited. Her hands trembled slightly. I've worked for that family for 32 years. I've seen things. Things that would haunt you. I'm aware of what they are. No. You're not. Moon's eyes hardened. The chairman was ruthless, but he had limits. Rules. A code. He's different. Different how? He has no limits when it comes to what he wants. No rules. No code. He takes. Destroys. Consumes. And right now he wants you. Adiz's blood cooled. Wants me for what? I don't know. But I've seen how he looks at you. I saw it the first night you arrived. Something in him recognized something in you. And that terrifies me. Why are you telling me this? Because the chairman loved you. I don't know how or why, but he did. And he's not here to protect you anymore. Moon stood. Be careful, Adiz. The young master doesn't love. He obsesses. And obsession always ends in destruction. She left. Adiz locked the door behind her. And checked the locks twice more before dawn. Week 8. Late evening. Foundation office. They were alone. Papers spread across the conference table. Coffee cups emptied. Hours blurred into each other. Jae-sun rubbed his eyes. We should stop. It's nearly midnight. The board meeting is tomorrow. These projections need to be perfect. They are perfect. You're obsessing over decimal points. She didn't look up. Your father trusted me with this. I won't fail him. You won't. He moved closer. Close enough that she could smell his cologne. Expensive, subtle. You haven't failed anyone. She stilled. Adiz. Her name on his lips was different now. Softer. More intimate. Don't what? Don't say my name like that. Like what? She finally looked up. Met his eyes. Saw everything Moon had warned her about. And something else. Something vulnerable. Something real. Like I matter to you. You do. He didn't look away. You've mattered since the moment I found you in my kitchen at 3 a.m., cleaning blood off my hands like it was nothing. That was the first time anyone touched me without wanting something. The first time anyone looked at me like I was wounded instead of dangerous. He stepped closer. Do you know how rare that is? In my world. I'm not in your world. You are now. Whether you wanted to be or not. His hand lifted. Hovered near her face. Didn't touch. I'm trying to be better. For this. He gestured at the papers. For his legacy. For you. But I don't know how. I was raised to take. To conquer. To destroy obstacles. I'm not an obstacle. No. You're something worse. His voice dropped. You're something I actually want. The air between them thickened. Her heart pounded. This can't happen. I know. Your father is dead. And he left you to me as much as he left me to you. Maybe that was his real plan. Not the money. Not the foundations. Just this. She stepped back. Put the table between them. I need to leave. Adiz. Good night, Jason. She gathered her things. Walked to the door. I won't give up. She paused. Didn't turn. I know you won't. That's what terrifies me. She avoided him for 2 weeks. Communicated through assistants. Attended meetings via video call. Kept interactions professional, minimal, distant. It didn't help. He filled every space she tried to empty. His name in emails. His voice in recordings. His presence in every decision she made. She began to understand obsession from the other side. Not as the one pursuing but as the one being pursued. It was suffocating. And terrifyingly exhilarating. Late one night her phone buzzed. Not a call. A text. From him. I know you're avoiding me. She didn't respond. I'm not angry. I understand. Still nothing. But you should know, I spoke to a priest today. For the first time since my mother died. I told him about you. About my father. About what I'm feeling. He stared at the screen. He said obsession and love feel the same from inside. The only way to tell the difference is by the fruit it produces. Another message. I'm trying to produce good fruit. For you. Even if you never let me close again. Tears fell. He typed a response. Deleted it. Typed again. Why are you telling me this? His reply came immediately. Because you deserve to know that you've changed something in me. Whatever happens. Whatever you decide. That's real. She turned off her phone. But his words echoed until morning. Week 11. It happened fast. Adiz was leaving the foundation office late. Too late she'd realize afterward, when they grabbed her. 2 men. Masks. A van. She screamed. Fought. Bit one of them hard enough to draw blood. But they were stronger. Faster. The door slammed shut. Darkness swallowed her. She woke in a warehouse. Tied to a chair. Head pounding. Dried blood on her lip. A man stood before her. Older. Silver hair. Suit that cost more than her year's salary. He smiled. So you're the African who stole 23 billion from the Park family. She didn't respond. I'm Kim Yong-chol. Chairman Park and I were colleagues. Competitors. He took many things from me over the years. I thought perhaps I might take something from him in return. He's dead. Yes. But his son is not. And neither are you. He leaned closer. You know what I find fascinating? The great Park Sung-ho, monster among monsters, left his fortune to a housemaid. A beautiful one, I'll grant you. But still. A maid. The courts will uphold. Courts. He laughed. This isn't about courts. This is about leverage. Jae-sun is consolidating power. Expanding territory that used to be mine. I need something to negotiate with. I'm not. You're exactly what I need. His father's legacy. His obsession. Kim's smile widened. Oh yes. I know about that too. The way he watches you. Follows you. My people have been watching him. Fear crawled up her spine. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to contact young Jae-sun. Offer a trade. You for the Eastern Territories. Simple. Clean. He won't. He will. For you he will. Kim straightened. Men like him don't know how to want things halfway. They burn for their obsessions. And I'm going to use that fire to take everything he has. He walked away. The door slammed. Adiz sat in darkness. And prayed harder than she'd ever prayed in her life. Jae-sun received the video at 2:17 a.m. Adiz. Bound. Bleeding. A knife at her throat. Kim's voice. The Eastern Territories. 24 hours. Or I send her back in pieces. He watched it 7 times. Then he destroyed his office. Every piece of furniture. Every painting. Every object within reach. When his lieutenants found him, he was sitting in the wreckage, covered in his own blood from shattered glass, staring at his phone. Mobilize everyone. Sir. Everyone. Now. Within 2 hours the Park Syndicate was at war footing. Intelligence teams tracked Kim's known locations. Surveillance networks activated across the city. Soldiers armed themselves for extraction. But Jae-sun didn't move. He sat in the command center, phone in hand, waiting. His second-in-command approached. Lee Dong-wook. Former military. Loyal to a fault. We've narrowed it to 3 possible locations. If we strike now, he'll kill her. He's expecting an attack. Then what? He wants the territories. He thinks I'll negotiate. Will you? Jae-sun closed his eyes. The territories represented 15 years of expansion. Billions in revenue. Thousands of soldiers' livelihoods. The foundation of his father's empire. And Adiz. Adiz was a woman he'd known for less than a year. A foreigner. A maid. A complication he'd never asked for. But when he thought of her dead, thought of never hearing her voice, never seeing her steady gaze, never feeling the strange peace she carried, nothing else mattered. I'm going to contact him. Offer the territories. Dong-wook's face went gray. Sir. Then I'm going to get her back. His eyes opened. Pulled. Clear. And then I'm going to burn his entire organization to ash. The meet was set for dawn. An abandoned shipyard near Incheon. Open ground. No cover. Kim came with 30 men. Jae-sun came with 5. Kim laughed when he saw the imbalance. You're either stupid or suicidal. Neither. Jae-sun's voice carried across the concrete. I'm just not afraid of dying. Are you? The smile faltered. Where is she? Nearby. Bring the documents first. Jae-sun raised a briefcase. Legal paperwork. Transfer of territories. 15 years of blood signed away in ink. He walked forward. Alone. Met Kim in the middle. Show me she's alive. Kim snapped his fingers. A van door opened. 2 men dragged Adiz into the light. Bruised. Bleeding. But alive. Her eyes found Jae-sun's. Fear. Relief. Warning. Something's wrong, her gaze said. He knew. But he didn't stop. Release her first. Then you get the documents. Kim laughed. You think I'm stupid? Papers first. Then we're at an impasse. Silence stretched. Then Kim's expression shifted. Darkened. I was going to make this clean. Quick. But you've annoyed me, Jane. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to hand over the papers. Then I'm going to take her anyway. And you're going to watch while I show you what happens to things you care about. Jae-sun didn't react. You're making a mistake. Am I? Kim raised his hand. Signal to his men. 30 guns aimed at Jae-sun. What mistake is that? Jae-sun smiled. Assuming I came to negotiate. The world exploded. Sniper fire from the surrounding buildings. Kim's men dropping one by one. Chaos erupting across the shipyard. Jae-sun moved. Not away from the danger. Toward it. Toward Adiz. Kim's bodyguards tried to stop him. He cut through them like water through stone. Moves efficient, brutal, perfected through years of training his father had mandated. He reached her in 30 seconds. Freed her hands in 10. Run. The East Building. Dong-wook is waiting. Jae-sun. Go. Now. She ran. He turned back to Kim. The older man was scrambling for cover, screaming orders that no one could follow in the chaos. Jae-sun caught up to him in the shadow of a rusting container. You threatened what's mine. Kim's face twisted with fear. We can negotiate. You had your chance to negotiate. You chose violence. Jae-sun's hand found Kim's throat. Now you'll get violence. Wait, please, I have information about your father, about how he really died. Jae-sun's grip loosened slightly. What? He didn't die naturally. Kim's words tumbled out. There was poison. In his medications. Someone close to him. The words cut off as gunfire erupted nearby. When the shooting stopped, Kim was unconscious at Jae-sun's feet. Alive. But only barely. But only barely. And the questions he'd raised would haunt Jae-sun for months to come. Adiz woke in a hospital. Private room. Bodyguards at the door. Flowers covering every surface. And Jae-sun sleeping in a chair beside her bed. His suit was ruined. Dried blood stained his collar. His face, even in sleep, showed the weight of what he'd done. He watched him for a long time. Remembering the shipyard. The chaos. His voice cutting through fear. Run. Go. No. He'd traded an empire for her. Actually signed the papers she'd later learn. Given up the territories. Then attacked anyway. The lawyers were still untangling the mess. But the message was clear. There was nothing he wouldn't sacrifice. Nothing he wouldn't destroy. For her. He woke to find her watching. You're awake. He straightened. Winced at stiff muscles. How do you feel? Like I was kidnapped. She managed a weak smile. But alive. The doctors say you'll recover fully. No permanent damage. And Kim? Being questioned. He claimed my father was poisoned. My people are investigating. Do you believe him? I believe he'd say anything to save himself. Jae-sun paused. But I'm not taking chances. Not anymore. She reached out. Touched his hand. He froze. You came for me. Of course I did. You gave up everything. Not everything. His fingers intertwined with hers. You're still here. 3 weeks later. Adiz stood before the foundation board. Fully recovered. Fully resolved. I've made a decision. The members, 12 of the most influential philanthropists in Korea, waited. I'm stepping down as primary executor. Effective immediately. Gasps. Protests. Confusion. She raised her hand. Let me explain. When Chairman Park chose me for this role, he believed I could be a bridge between his past and a better future. But I've realized that bridge isn't me alone. It's partnership. Collaboration. Shared vision. She turned to the doorway. Jae-sun entered. I'm recommending Park Jae-sun as co-executor, with equal authority in all foundation decisions. He has the resources, the connections and, more importantly, the genuine desire to honor his father's legacy. This is highly irregular, one board member started. So was a Nigerian maid inheriting 23 billion won. Adiz smiled. But here we are. Sometimes God's plans don't fit our expectations. The vote was called. 11-1. The partnership was approved. Later in the car. You didn't have to do that. I know. She looked out the window at Seoul's rushing lights. I wanted to. Why? Because your father was right. Maybe this was always about you becoming who you were supposed to be. And maybe I was just the door. You're not a door, Adiz. You're not an instrument. His hand found hers. You're a person. With your own story. Your own future. I know that too. She squeezed his fingers. But my story and your story, they're connected now. Whether we wanted it or not. And do you want it? The question hung between them. She turned to face him. I'm terrified of you. Of what you are. Of what you're capable of. He nodded. Accepting. But I'm also. She searched for the right word. Compelled. Against every rational thought. Against every warning I've received. Moon spoke to you. She did. And you're still here. I'm still here. He lifted her hand to his lips. Kissed her knuckles. Go. Reverent. Then let me spend the rest of my life proving her wrong. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to AE.